This is the Aptitude Outdoors podcast, where we interview travelers, explorers, and outdoorsmen and women to bring you the best tips and stories from around the world. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Aptitude Outdoors podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Tayson Whittaker of the Outdoor Vitals, the owner, creator, entrepreneur. Super stoked to have you on the show, man. How are you doing out there in Utah?
Doing good. We actually just got back in the office from a hike, and so we've been loving it up. It's a good time to be out here.
Before we get too carried away with everything, I want you to know that I've had your down underquilt for my hammock for years, and nice. That's why I wanted to reach out and get you on the podcast, because I've done tons of backpacking, and it's seriously it is probably my favorite piece of equipment. I can't, keep in my excitement. I tell everyone about it. So before we start digging into gear talk, I really like to get the background on how did you start as a wee young lad in the outdoors? Because everybody doesn't just wake up one day and it's I'm an outdoorsman. Where's your influence in this?
Yeah, I would say I have a different influence to most people. I sometimes compare myself and I'm like, man, I feel like I just didn't start off the same as other people, but I compare myself to others, and maybe I did. But I grew up in a small town here in southern Utah, about 7,000 people. And so when you grow up in those towns, I feel like you just spend a lot of time outdoors. I spent a lot of time outdoors with friends and things like that. But also my family they were more outdoorsy, but they were more stay close to the car. They had a camp trailer, a little tiny camp trailer that we'd pull up on the mountain and spend time doing things like that as well. And then in Boy Scouts, I dabbled with backpacking, but still, even then, I hadn't done a lot of backpacking. It was actually when I got into college that I started to really get into backpacking. I just wanted to get farther and farther away from crowds and get into more remote areas. Something just called to me about that. I'd always loved camping. I'd always loved sleeping outside and doing different things like that. But in college, when I really started to gain love and appreciation of true backpacking, and that's just when I started to geek out on it and really get into it, and yeah, it's kind of all been downhill from there.
Well, I can attest that growing up in Utah is probably significantly different than growing up in Ohio. Probably a lot more up and down. I've been out there once or twice, and it's just amazingly beautiful. And it's kind of like you've said on your podcast, it's kind of this gem that people are out west or from east out here where I'm at think of Colorado, or they think of Washington, and Utah kind of just is off in the corner from where I'm at. So what's the big highlights of Utah that you guys are always testing your gear out on?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for a gear company, I don't think we could be in a better place, because with about 30-40 minutes, we can be up to 12,000 feet in elevation. And in about 30-40 minutes, the other direction, we can be down to 2,000, 3,000 feet of elevation just in desert, dry areas. And so it just gives us a huge advantage to just whatever we need to be testing, whatever type of terrain we want to be in. If you watch our YouTube channel, 90% of that is within an hour of the office. So whether we're in the desert and the red rocks like we just have been today, or whether we're on top of a mountain summiting it, getting hit by a hailstorm or something, it's just that. So it really is just a great place for us to be just thrashing gear and giving it different looks.
I've noticed over the last few years your progression of gear, sometimes companies you see, they just kind of keep putting out the same stuff over and over again. But from when I first bought my underquilt for my hammock until what I'm seeing now, you guys are just the quality has gone up exponentially. The products are insanely good. And I've no joke, I beat this bag to death. I've taken it up into northern Michigan, 30-degree weather. I've taken it into New Hampshire, up in the White. It's such a good piece of gear, and you're only getting better. I'm super stoked on all your quilts that are coming out now, and you're coming out with clothing. You launched some new clothing recently, and I'm just I can't keep up with all the awesomeness. So how did that progression happen, man? How'd you go from a Kickstarter thing to holy crap, here we are?
Yeah. So the honest truth is we've always designed the best gear we could for the resources we had. But I started the company off just a lot different than I feel like a lot of other people start companies off with. Like I started with $500 and I started ordering samples from factories, and they were basically selling me whatever they could out the back door until I could like order enough to put a logo on it. You know what I mean? So it started really humble, like just raw, you know, and I was like finding factories myself. And so it's been really great because like I talk about it as like two forms, but like right now we're like living in Outdoor Vitals 2.0, which is where I always dreamed the company would be. But it just took us time to get there. Took me time to get there, you know, when I was running it, doing things solo for a while. But yeah, the gear like progression and things that we are coming out with, we will continue to come out with. It's where we've always wanted to be, and it's awesome, you know, like because we have the resources now. I have a dedicated design guy that can just geek out on this stuff all day long now, and he's not bothered by anything else. And then, you know, within our own network now, we can find and source just the highest end factories, and then from there though, now we get to work down the supply chains from there into all the fabrics. So like we've got a backpack coming out where we've custom designed the fabric to give us exactly what we want, you know, this hybrid fabric. And so it's just been a blast, like, but that just wasn't an option for me in the beginning. And so, and I don't have a product design background. I have a finance degree. And so, yeah, it's been a progression. And if you followed us a long time, you can see a massive progression in the gear. And that's just something that I feel like people can kind of continue to expect, because that's just my personality. That's us at the office, is we're just always like, how, you know, what can we do? And when we brought the product designer on, Brigham, if you've ever listened to like our podcast, he's on there quite a bit with me. You know, we just really mesh well, and it's really allowed us to just make sure every little stitch, you know, just is getting better and better. And I love that about where we've got to be. But yeah, in the beginning, it was a little more raw.
So you have a background in finance, which I'm sure helps with the business side of things, but with the design, was it just something you were interested in? Because like someone like me, I had this whole room. This is a backdrop right here behind me for people watching. There's just gear everywhere. There's sleeping bag. Like I have so much gear, but I could never envision myself making a piece of gear. Like putting some grommets in a tent for something, yeah, or a tarp, I can do that. But like, where did this passion come from?
Yeah. For me, like it was different. You know, as a kid, like I was into motorcycles, and I would like take home brochures and I would study like the specs. I could memorize spec sheets and I just loved it, you know? And so when I get real passionate and focused on stuff, I just kind of like go out there and I can just look at every single thing in the market and just be like, okay, what if we did this? What if we did this? And I feel like for some reason I've been pretty lucky I don't know if it's just because I'm my own avatar for our customers, you know, like people can resonate with that or what it is, but I'm able to separate some of the good and the bad ideas. Obviously, we've had bad ideas, maybe things that just didn't hit like we wanted to, or things like that. But I've got like a brother, and every time I'm with him, he's got 100 ideas, and I, you know, but I'll listen to all 100, and I'm like, hey, that one you just said, maybe there's something to that, but I can sift through some of those. And so I wouldn't say like that I'm just this amazing designer or anything like that. It's more of just me being able to sift through and know what's viable, what's real, and connect the dots in some of those places. But I think I grew up, and maybe this will help people out there too, but I grew up thinking I wasn't creative because I couldn't like take like a blank piece of paper and draw like this beautiful tree or house or mountain, right? And I'm like, oh, that means I'm not creative. But I've definitely learned that I am creative, but it's not in like, give me a blank canvas and create in that way. It's more of like, maybe in some of the marketing, or maybe in some of like, definitely in like some of the product design, just some of the ideas. Creativity is just different, I think, for each person. And I've learned, even, you know, as the business has gone on and whatnot, what that is to me, and just been able to apply it. But
yeah, I mean, what really has kept me with like keeping up with you guys over time is I'm on, you know, social media all day. I have a podcast, so I'm always looking at stuff and trying to see how things are going out there. And I see a lot of companies come up, and I don't even know, I don't want to make this sound bad, but you see these companies come up and it's like, looks like they all just ordered some stock junk off of a factory and are just reselling it for like $10. But like, I've actively watched you guys make brand new things, brand new designs. I mean, you go down to like talking about the fill you're using and adapting that and like studying it. Whereas I see a lot of other companies just kind of like, we ordered 800,000 sleeping pads off Amazon and we're reselling them for $40 or something. So it's really awesome just to watch you guys innovate, because like the zip over quilt and stuff like that, I would have never thought of that. I would have just been buying some cheap stuff off Amazon. Like, is it your goal?
See, and what's funny about that, just that, like, I think you're mentioning the mummy pod is what you mean by that.
Yeah.
That's what I would actually consider that one of my less good ideas. And yet
Really?
Yeah. And people love it. They buy it every day. Like I've tried to like, hey, maybe we should discontinue this, but people just keep buying it. But yeah, like sometimes ignorance is bliss, I guess. Cause we definitely that was one that anyways, yeah, just wanted to call that out there. But
totally fine. I think it's the best thing because I use it as a sleeping bag more than anything. So I was really interested in, you kind of do a lot of stuff with blending fat, like not or fills. Like you do kind of like this hybrid with down, and like everybody's either in down or synthetic camp. There's nobody that's kind of really in the middle, like creating a plausible solution for both. So what's this kind of like Loft Tech and power down, or not power down, but like the
yeah. So Loft Tech. It was something had always been interested in, because my dad, for some reason, he just kind of keeps this top of mind for me, but he's like scared of down. And he always talked about this particular brand of sleeping bag where, you can totally soak it wet and then sleep in it and you'll be dry by morning. And this guy, he almost got hypothermia once. And after that, he only would use synthetics, and he just lived in that camp. Right. And so I was like the down camp and he was in that camp, and I'm like, I'd love to create something that was just lighter, because he'd show up. Like I ordered one of these bags from this guy just to see what they were like. And I bought his ultra light 15-degree model, and it was like a 7-8 pound sleeping bag. And I'm like, that's what I want everything in my pack to weigh, like, and so I was like, I wonder, so I was just always got interested in like, well, what if we could take what makes down so amazing and make it synthetic, right? Like make it. And so I was watching it for a long time. I'd met with Primaloft and was watching some of the stuff they were doing, and some other companies, and actually met a company that was a machine company selling machinery to these types of businesses, and they created this loose fill synthetic. So it's like a siliconized loose fill polyester synthetic, and loose fill just means like down, like it just floats around. You can separate it. Anyways, and it was really good stuff, and so we started to use that, and we've just kind of never turned back on the innovations there. And what we found is, we did try to shove it in, and this is another mistake. You're just drawing them out on me today. We did run a very small batch of this Loft Tech stuff, and this was probably 3 years ago or so, of just putting pure Loft Tech in a sleeping bag. And when we got it just did not meet the specifications we wanted to. Like it was a little bit clumpy and things, and so we actually just emailed our list and said, hey, we made a mistake. If you want these at cost, you can have them. And they sold out within like 3 hours. Like people just liquidated it. It was crazy. But so we were like, well, what can we do? And so I actually worked with the factories to start blending it with down. So they would mix this siliconized fiber with down to stabilize it. And it created this really amazing synergy effect where the down keeps it more lofted, more stable, everything like that. But because the synthetic's in there, it drains water, it dries super fast, and it actually helps the down stay from like clumping. And so you have almost the best of both worlds. Now, it's not an 800 or 900 fill power like comparison, but it is like a 650, 675 fill power comparison. So if you're looking at like a budget down bag, it's right there, but you get all the benefits of the synthetic. But still, compared to like a true synthetic bag, it's just the weight to warmth ratio is really, really high in it. So that's what drove it. I was just constantly like watching, like, what could we do? What could we do to make synthetics perform better? What could we do to lighten them up and make it like something a backpacker could actually use? And that was just a process of years of watching and then working with factories. But
so the new thing that you guys have done, which I thought was pretty cool, you came out with new pants and merino wool base layers, which like, I've through hiked the AT. So like anything merino wool is like the gold standard of backpacking gear. So I just like immediately when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's sweet, because, merino is expensive, but like it works. It's like the whole thing. So what was the idea behind these new products with the clothing line? I'm pretty stoked about it.
Yeah, do you want me to dive into the wool first or the pants?
Let's do wool, because I love wool. It's underrated outdoors material. Right? Currently.
Yeah. So really, a lot of our designs really come from finding the problems. And just like I said, that's why it's so great for us to be where we're at and just do what we do. Is, I don't have the ability and probably won't maybe in my lifetime to do like a full through hike. But so I go on a lot of 2, 3, 4 nighters and those types of hikes, just because of family and where I'm located and things. But we get a huge breadth of different things. So and when you work this, you're just constantly going out with a different set of eyes of like, what can we tweak? What could we improve? But it gives us really good feedback because we just get to be out in the field really often. Like Brigham, my product designer, I swear every single weekend he's out backpacking or hiking, and I try to follow as close to that as we can. We do monthly trips with the team, but we just get outdoors a lot. So the problem that we were trying to solve is, there's like the wool camp, and that's where I was because I'm a big sweater, and then that creates odor, and I don't want to have odor developing. And so I was always in merino wool. And then I would see a lot of my employees, they'd still be wearing synthetics. And when I would wear synthetics, they'd have the advantages of like drying faster, or maybe staying a little bit warmer at times, but they just develop odor so fast for me. And so that was like the big problem that we were kind of looking to solve, is how can we mesh those two things and figure out kind of a hybrid option or something to just make that better. And so we first partnered with a company called New Yarn, just because their merino wool was just outperforming any other merino wool out there. It could dry faster. They had a patented way in which they spin it so that it takes less of the spirality or spin out of the yarns, and it makes it stronger and more lofty and dry faster. So we started with them, and then through the process of working with them and a few different innovations they had, we ended up with this particular fabric. And what it is we've put they weave it all together at the same time, but they've got a polyester jersey on the outside with a merino, a 90% merino on the inside. And so that wool pulls the moisture off your skin, and then that goes into the polyester and evaporates it super fast, because synthetics can dry faster than a merino wool. Merino wool holds onto moisture, so it'll pull it off your skin, whereas a synthetic like a nylon or polyester are hydrophobic, so they're going to push out the moisture, spread it out, dry it faster. And so it just created this really cool, like it's hard for me to explain. Like I can get geeked out, like I can freak out and be like, it's so cool, but you almost have to feel it. So I'm wearing one right now. I just hiked 2 days in this thing, and I actually, if you want to see it, I jumped in a river and then kept hiking to try to show you how fast it was drying. And from sitting in the river to completely dry was an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 40 minutes, I think. But that's just how fast it can work. And so you really have to get your hands on it, but you can feel it working. Like if you're developing moisture from sweat or something like that, you'll feel like your chest start to cool off. In targeted, like that targeted of an area, it's a high performance fabric that it's the coolest part is you can just feel it working when it's doing its job. So from merino wool perspective, it gives you like the merino wool against your skin. It keeps the odor low, and because it dries faster than a regular merino, it retains like the same odor properties as something that's like an 85-90% merino wool garment, just because of the way that it manages and pushes that moisture out so quickly. So just a really cool piece that we were able to figure out and try to bridge those two problems that we were having with our gear. And over the course of a lot of relationships and travel and different things, we were able to get a hold of this fabric and start producing it. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been in both camps, for a while. I mean, to me, wool and synthetics have separate properties, but like you, the smell is so terrible. I mean, you get in a 2-3 day trip with that synthetic stuff, and it's like nobody even wants to be around you. It's so gnarly, but wool really does. I mean, and that's pretty awesome that you're able to blend them in a way that they work together. Because you guys like the masters at blending stuff that nobody thinks to put together like that. It's so crazy because I would have never thought of that. I was just like, well, it's either wool or this. Pick your poison, So it's pretty awesome. What's the deal with the pants? They just look amazingly stretchy and comfortable, which I've given up on jeans years ago. So I'm in your camp already.
Preaching to the choir then. Yeah, the pants. The big thing with them was I wanted to first create just something that I could wear every day, right? Because I was done with jeans. I couldn't handle them anymore. Wanted to create something that I could use every day, but that just had more usable features and mainly that could look nice, right? Because a lot of the outdoor pants that I started wearing, my wife was just like, no, that's not like you can't, like doesn't fly and stuff,
like
around town. Yeah. Like I'm wearing my zip offs to a night out, she's like, no. So we wanted to make something that looked good, but obviously for us, like it's all performance based. And so we wanted the features in there. And so with some of those things we're trying to bridge, we just started out again, starting with the fabric and then working through the features themselves. And so, I had used some Toray fabrics before, and so we went and started talking with them. And I'd also looked into some other fabrics, similar to like a Piranha fabric, like a stretched ion fabric. And so we just started to play out some of these. And the thing that we really liked with the Toray fabric we were able to get is that it had 0 spandex, but it still has stretch. And that's a really rare thing because they have to mechanically stretch the fabric. In the way that they weave it, right? So all the stretch is actually in the way that they're weaving it rather than in just relying on like a spandex thread or a spandex core. And the reason that we didn't want spandex is spandex holds moisture. One spandex is heavy, like it's just a heavier yarn or fiber. But then 2, it holds on to moisture. And just like we just went over with the wool, holding on to moisture means it's going to develop odor and develop sweat, from your sweat. And so we didn't want it to hold moisture. We wanted to stay more comfortable, have it dry faster, but also develop less odor. And so we started off, doing some samples with that fabric, and we really, really liked it. For durability and function, it was just super, super impressive. And then from there, we dove into the features. Like, what can we give this pant that we can still make it look good, right? Like, how can we make this a good looking pant, but highly, highly functional? And from there, we just went through a lot of different prototypes. We got to like the invisible side zip vents and just anything on there. Like we want it to be able to be something that you could wear to a night out and then literally go and hike the gnarliest trail and feel like they're going to perform. So, but I mean, I'd be interested, like your feedback, like after me kind of like talking through that, like does the 0 spandex thing, does that intrigue you or like, I don't know, what are your thoughts on something like that?
Well, I don't know anything about spandex other than it's spandex and it's stretchy. I pretty much wear pants in the similar vein of what you're talking about, all right? Like not like high-end pants, but like the outdoors pants, the stretchy pants. Like that is definitely 100% something that's lacking because you either look like a dorky naturalist, like you just worked at the parks and got off your shift and you're going to the bar or something, or you look like, like you're wearing almost like business slacks or something sometimes with some of like the gray ones. So like I personally want something that is like both because I only wear one or the other. Like I don't wear like normal clothes. I'm always wearing those kind of pants because I'm outside all the time. So like that sounds super awesome. Like, and just the quality of stuff you guys make is I don't even have to have a pair right now to know that they're going to be awesome,
No, they've gone through the ringer. We're definitely stoked about them, and it's nice about like when we do these Kickstarter campaigns, which is how we chose to launch this one. Is it does give us just tons of time. We end up ordering like salesman samples, what they're called, so we get like a very small batch of like 50, 60 of them that we're testing and sending out to different people to test. And we've really dialed them in, and I'm super stoked to be able to start shipping these things out.
Well. And going back to what I said earlier, I've seen you guys on social media for a long time now, and it seems like you've kind of had this transition from, I don't want to say like just like camping gear to like switching to this super ultra light stuff. Is that a hard transition? I mean, it's been a couple of years now, but is that something that was difficult, or was it a natural progression because that's what people want nowadays, or?
It's probably a harder transition to manage. I mean, it's like easy for me to be like, yeah, we need to improve this and just go. But yeah, it is a little bit harder, I think, for some of our older customers, because they were like, when we first started, we definitely were. I mean, I'll just be honest. Like, it was me trying to get to cash. Like, how can I get this business to go so that I can then create what I want to create out of it? And we had some gear that like was lightweight, but it wasn't ultra light. It was like budget 550 fill power down bags, and we were selling them for like $99, and it was just like unheard of to people to get a down sleeping bag for that price. But it also attracted the type of people who want a 550 budget down sleeping bag. And so as we were doing that and bringing more products to life and just getting the business off the ground, we realized we were attracting not necessarily the customer that we wanted long term. It wasn't really us. Like us as avatars weren't matching our customer clientele as well as we wanted to. And so that, when I started to hear things like, oh, Outdoor Vitals, yeah, they're that budget company and stuff, that's when I was like, okay, hard fat, like we got it, like it's time. Like we're big enough now that we can afford to like slow down certain things to focus on different things. And I didn't want people to be like, oh, that's that budget company and stuff. And while we save people money because we do the direct to consumer business model for sure, we didn't want to be associated with budget, which honestly, to be 100% fair, we probably were releasing budget gear in the very, very beginning. But it's been a hard switch, I would say. But at the same time, every time I'm like nervous, like for even these pants that we release, like they are like if you were to go try to find similar pants from some of these other companies, I mean they're just expensive pants. And I get nervous that like our clientele's gonna be like, whoa, like what the heck, and get really nervous. But at the same, like every time I get nervous, like it doesn't even happen. People just see like what we're doing. They see the quality. They see the quality of fabrics, the expenses, that this stuff takes to bring to life, as far as, from the fabric and the hardware and perspective. And they've actually accepted it better than I thought. Yeah,
I mean that from my experience, the ultralight market is insane just to begin with, because there's some people I know that are the backpacking community consider themselves ultralight. They're very picky. Like they are super particular. So it's probably a hard market for you. I don't have a business background, so I have no idea. But like, I mean, just being in the backpacking community in general, I know how hard people are on gear. Like they'll just write gear off in 2 seconds, or they're like with it for life. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't know. I think you guys are doing a great job, or I think your gear is super killer. Even what I would have is probably considered your budget gear from years ago. Like the zipper has never gotten stuck on me when you're trying to get out of the tent at 2 a.m. to like go take a leak or something. And that's really like stuff like that's important. Like not every piece of gear has to be a $600 sleeping bag, for it to work really well. And like that's what I think you guys do a really good job with. I have $500 sleeping bags I can't get out of. You're just like, what the heck is the problem with it? Like the zipper gets stuck. What's the deal? And how much time do you guys spend on that nuanced stuff? I want to know, because it seems like you spend a lot.
Yeah. I would say in the beginning, I was able to spend a lot of time on it. And then as we got bigger and bigger and I got spread more thin, I didn't get to spend as much time as I wanted to on it. And then now that we have like Brigham leading the charge on that type of stuff, very, very detail oriented. I mean, just even so for instance, we just took 3 new packs out on a trip, and the whole time we're evaluating different things. We're looking at just everything we can, and then he'll come back in and he'll just basically strip those packs all the way down, look at every stitch, every stress point, everything, and that stuff really gets looked at hard now. And so it's been a little bit of like different things, but like it's always been something that's gotten better and better and better, and they matter though. Like if there's like, believe it or not, the 2 biggest things that a sleeping bag is judged on, it could have 900 fill power down, it could have the lightest like 7-10-year fabrics, whatever. But if that zipper doesn't work, or your compression straps break on your sleeping, like the compression bag, you're toast. Like it's bad review instantly.
Yeah, man. And it's funny. I mean, you run the company, so like, I get people on it, like just podcasting or anything you put on the internet, you get a bad review, and you're always like, oh, dude, real like even as you guys grow, does that stuff get hard to read? Sometimes you just kind of take it in stride, because it's
I actually I see my employees go through this. So as the guy who started it, dude, I mean, anytime you put out anything into the world, you put a target on your back. You just put a target on your back. And from doing it from the beginning, I kind of had to go through that phase of like, I cared too much. So like I would try to appeal to everyone. And then it was like, no, this guy's like, he's not our guy. Like we're going to let him drift out or whatever. But I mean, even on this trip, one of my employees is like, yeah, this guy, he commented on our Facebook, and he's like, well, can I weld in your pants? Like, how does it hold up against slag? And I was like, it doesn't. It's polyester, like it's not. And he's like, and then the guy was like, well, I guess it doesn't do it all. And I'm just like, but like, that's the stuff that's like sticking in their head. And so each employee, I feel like, actually goes through a cycle of like, look, anytime we put out anything on the internet, you put a target on your back, and like, there's keyboard warriors that just, they can tell you how to do everything right, and they don't do anything to fix it themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I always wondered, because like I talk to a lot of thru hikers and people who do podcasts and stuff, and we're so totally used to just getting like completely ripped apart. Like that's just what people do. Like you said they instead of the, like
it was an hour long.
Is mine. Yep.
Yeah.
If I type an email and I use the wrong 5 emails within like seconds come back. You did it again.
Yeah, and it's so funny because it's like, I think people lose this like perception just because you're like a business or something. Everything has to be perfect all the time. Like there's no flexibility. It's like we're still just people out here doing what we're doing, like I'm still just a guy, you're still just a guy doing what you do, and people are like, this stupid idiot doesn't even know. It's like you probably spent 10,000 hours making bags, but all of a sudden like some guy from Oklahoma or something is just like, he don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, no, you get it. And we get a lot of emails of people that like want to like share their ideas, and they're like, hey, would you be willing to like sign a non-disclosure and hop on a call and I'll teach you how to make stuff? And it's like, I'm not going to sign a non-disclosure. I may be interested in your ideas because 1 in every 100 might have merit, you know what I mean? But all of them know. They know. I mean, and then you like email them back and be like, sorry, that's not something that we can do. We can't sign non-disclosures or anything like that because it might be something that we've already got like R&D into, right? But
yeah,
and then they're just like, this is the one. Like if you did this, you'd make millions. I know you could, and all this stuff. And you're just like, I'm sorry, like that's just
Go ahead and make it.
Yeah, I'm like, if it's not going to work out here, obviously you're welcome to continue running with your idea. But it's hard because like I hate turning, because a lot of the people like are customers, and it's like, look, dude, like I want to hear it and stuff, but I can't do that. No,
it's just part of the territory, man. I get it. But one of the things that intrigued me about you said you spent some time, I believe it was in Malaysia. What was that like?
Yeah, Malaysia was something else. It's something that I pondered on a lot because it really gives you a perspective as far as just differences of life and I don't even know where to start, I guess, with that. But yeah, so I got to spend some time in Malaysia, and I specifically got to spend time with just the different even tiers of people in Malaysia as far as like income levels. And I got to spend a lot of time in these areas that had like squatter housing. And so they're just building these houses basically on stilts because they're like in flood zones, or different, and they had no irrigation. And so sometimes they just build up swamps and stuff like that. And sanitation wasn't good. But so yeah, it was super interesting to spend the time there. Just get to know the people because amazingly enough, like they were usually happy. They're usually happy people, even though they had like crazy hard lives and different things. And you knew they weren't like, things were definitely hard for them. But at the end of the day, they'd always smile and just have a good time with you and stuff. And so it really drove like a passion in me to be like, how can we help? And that's actually the number one reason that we manufacture overseas. Well, I say number one, but it's why I continue to just focus on some of that because, for some of these people to get a good, stable job like that, it doesn't just change their lives. It changes their kids' lives and generations of lives because now their kids can go to school. Whereas before, all the kids that I knew were dropping out of school if they even got to go to school by like 10 years old to start trying to go make money and support family and do all of that. And so, whereas like you go to like China now, for instance, there's no young people in the factories. There's not like, they're all working at the hotels you're at. They're all working at the airports you're at because they've all got an education and they're like, no, I don't want to do that. And so, a lot of like even the big factories in China have shifted out of China or actively shifting out and stuff. And so going back to Malaysia, I remember leaving and being like, what would it be like if I could give people jobs in a country like Malaysia where they could work 5 days a week and have like a stable income? And I was like, that would be just so cool because it's just a multiplier. $1 spent in a country like Malaysia or Vietnam, the multiplier effect on it is so much greater than $1 spent here. In fact, we've got one, Torre, for instance, is working. They've got a factory they've opened up in Ethiopia, and the multiplier, I think last I talked to them, was like 16. So like $1 spent in there goes 16 times like farther to affect their economy and to help those people. It's amazing, right? But so it really drove like a passion in me, like how can we help people? So we love to manufacture and really developing countries. But then we also just love to try to give back in any way we can, which is kind of the charity work we do here as well. But yeah, it was a ride, man. I really need to get back there and spend some more time there now that things are just a lot different for me than where I was in my life then. As far as, I don't know, now I feel like I might be able to go and just find areas that I can do things. I actually read a book pretty recently. This is getting real off subject here.
I'm all about it.
It's called The Productivity Paradox, and he talks about how, like, if you really want to help people in these countries, it's like us actually making stuff in those countries is way better than us giving money back. But he talked about, like, if you really want to help them, take something that they don't have from a first world country and go and build a business in those countries using it. So give examples like someone taking cell phones to Africa, or taking, for instance, it's like ramen noodles, taking ramen noodles to Africa, making that into a business. And he talked about the multiplying effect and all the things that did. And it like has had the biggest impacts of anything in like the last 50 years on helping those guys out, was just creating more businesses, creating and specifically building something that they just didn't have access to before, building new solutions for them that makes them want, maybe aspire to work harder or aspire to spend money on something new, and I don't know what it all is, but yeah, super interesting. So I'd love to go back there and see if, like, hey, maybe we could create something specific for third world countries with outdoor vitals that would be something new that they didn't have before that could help their economy. But
well, I mean, you said in the past that like you go over to these factories and walk through them and stuff, so you're not just like sending it off like, oh, whatever, like,
right.
Do you do that like every time, or are you kind of, I'm sure you know them by now, like the factories you're going to, you don't need to go over there every time you do something?
Yeah, so we walk every factory that we manufacture in, and a big part of it too is like the factories we work with now are like referral based, like we don't just go find them off the street or off Alibaba.com or something, like we're going off of referrals. We're going off of who manufactures with you. That's a reputable source. And then we're going and walking the factories as well.
Did you ever see yourself kind of grow into this spot, or did you just kind of like have an idea one day and you just kind of went with it until you were like, oh wow, this is awesome?
Yeah. I think yes and no. Like maybe I dreamed that it would kind of get here at some point. We saw a lot of success really quickly, so that was really surprising to me. But I think, like, I lost my train of thought there. But like, it definitely, yeah. I hoped that we would get there, and it is totally different, I guess, here, because every time that we grow, like I get a perspective shift. And it might just be my personality. Like I'm always wanting to continue to push and stuff. But like getting to like that first $1 million was like a big mark for us. I'm like, man, what would that be like? And then we hit that. It's like, okay, what's next? And you start raising your sights, and then you start like seeing who you're really up against. And you're like, these guys are like $100 million year companies, and then you're like, what is that? What is that like? And so you're like, how many sales is that a day? And so you like reverse that, and you're like, that's like hundreds of thousands of dollars a day, and so that's where like I get big perspective shifts, because like coming from a town of 7,000 people, like it just like I couldn't fathom it. Like I still like, I mean, sometimes I drive through like big cities and I'm like, there's a lot of people here, like, and you just try to add up in your head, like, I don't know, whatever it is. And so I definitely get like big perspective shifts every once in a while where it's like, wow, this like market size or just like volume of people, you look at something like the North Face, like billions of dollars, and it's like you start to break that down into like days, and it's pretty overwhelming. That's where I have like these big shifts, like, wow, I didn't think we would be here, and that's like the next goal we would be setting.
I mean, it's just so awesome to watch, like it's one thing to watch like the North Face grow because they're the North Face. They've all like, since I've been born, the North Face has existed. And it's like, it's cool to watch other people doing things. Like it's awesome to watch, like, something that you found on the internet a couple years ago is now doing great. Or like someone like me, I could be like, oh man, these guys 5 years ago, I saw them on Facebook ad, and now it's just like, oh wow, I'm talking to their owner on Skype. Cool. Like I definitely get those perspective shifts all the time. Like that's how it felt when I did the Appalachian Trail. It was like, there's no way, and then I did it, and I'm just like, oh man, that was sweet. What else can I do? So I'm right there with you, man. Like sometimes it just seems like stuff comes out of thin air. You're just like, whoa, what happened?
Totally. Yeah. Like anytime you see a company that you're just like, whoa, those guys are killing it out of thin air. I always like personally, I have to like go and like look at their background and be like, oh, they've been doing it 5 years. Imagine that. Like they've already been, like they didn't pop out of the ground, like I can't remember the quote, but it's like something like every overnight millionaire success story is 20 years in the making or something like that.
For real, man. Do you guys have any hilarious or death defying stories from your testing trips? Because if you're out there once a month, years and years of that, you gotta have some stories.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I mean,
like wild animals. I don't even know what animals you have out there in Utah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I remember one time I was up testing some gear, and I just pushed to the max. I ended up like just going way too far, and like at one point in the night, it was just me solo out there. I remember something big tripped over my tarp line, and then just took off like a rocket and like smashed this tree and knocked it over, and I was just like, well, it ran away, and I just rolled over and went back to sleep. Like I was just so freaking thrashed from the day. I enjoy our torture tests, like sleeping in the wet sleeping bag. Those have been fun. I've had some of those, actually not from the current installation, but previous installations that I've tried, where like I've soaked a bag and slept in it, and I like wake up and like the top is dry, but like I'm still sleeping on water underneath me, and it was like a cold night. Yeah, I mean, there's just some things like that. We've never had anything get too bad as far as like any failures or things. One time we got real lucky. We dumped our packs when we were in the units once, and we went and summited Kings Peak. And when we got back, a rock chuck had destroyed one of our employees' packs, and he got super lucky that like, cause it chewed all over his shoulder pad. That like he got super lucky. It was like one more chomp, and he wouldn't have been able to like wear two shoulder straps off the mountain. And we're like, what were we, 15 miles in or something at that point? It was just like, so we've had some of that, I don't know. It's, I wish that I had like that one. I don't wish that I had like that one, like call search and rescue type thing. That would be terrible. But we've always done all right as far as like when it comes to real serious stuff. But
well, I mean, you've had to have thousands of hours out in the wilderness testing gear. I mean, between you, your employees. So this stuff is like field tested to the max. Yeah.
And like the more you do it, the more like, I don't know, I feel like the risk goes down, right? Like I always talk about like fear is like really just unknowns. And so we took my brother-in-law actually came out with us on this last backpacking trip, and the amount of fear that he has going into that is just so much higher than the rest of us, especially like trusting his gear and all those things. And so the more you do it, the more it's like you don't forget stuff anymore. You just use a checklist instead of think you're Superman and remember everything, and just some things like that. But yeah, we've spent a lot of time out there, and the thing is about this particular industry is like, I don't know, if you were in an industry that wasn't your hobby as well, you work your 5 days and then you go home, or after hours you're not thinking about it. But like when all that we love to do around here is spend time outdoors, then everywhere I go, I'm like, the wheels are turning, or I'm testing gear, or I'm evaluating stuff, and it's hard because sometimes like I feel like I never stop working. But on the other side, like, it was a Wednesday, Thursday, and we just went out on a backpacking trip, so it's a blessing, but it can be a curse too. But yeah, we spend a lot of time just wheels spinning outdoors, looking at the gear, using the gear, trying different things. So
do you have any kind of specific quirky items that you take out on your backpacking trips? I know some people bring some weird stuff, or you just kind of like buy the books, take what you need.
Quirky items.
Or comfort items, I guess, that aren't your standard.
I think I'm getting close to being ready to invest in a Helinox chair. I'm close. Like the lightest one's like a pound, and I was just having this conversation this morning. I'm like, a pound is not too much to ask to have a nice seat when you get there. So I may invest in something like that. It seems like you get these guys who go out and they're like, look, I've got a sub 10 pound base weight and so on and so forth. And it seems like my pack always is coming in at like 11, 12 pounds because I carry things like a GPS I can text off of. That's definitely like a must for when you test as much gear as we do and do a lot of solo, and you've got a wife, that wants to hear from you. So like that's some extra gear that I take. I've become a big, I'm taller and I have really poor circulation. So I heat a water bottle up and put it in my sleeping bag anytime it's like dropping below freezing. Like I've really started to enjoy that. I thought it was like a myth. Like, I don't think that really works. But like the first time I tried it and at like 6 a.m. I still had warmth out of that bottle of water. I was like, okay, this is amazing. I really like this.
I have to try that one.
Yeah.
I have not.
It'll surprise you. Like water can hold heat a long time, like in an insulated bag like that,
Yeah. Do you have like any kind of like, I don't know if you want to talk about it. You have any kind of like crazy stuff that you're working on for the future? You got any? I feel like you might be making yourself a Helinox styled chair soon. Now that you thought about it, I don't know, but
is that? It wouldn't be hard. Yeah. I'd say that we have 2 projects up and coming that are going to greatly up level our existing kind of core offers. And so initially we started with like sleep systems, and then we worked towards like some pack systems and shelter systems. And we didn't quite hit the mark that I wanted to hit, especially as we've gotten more into the ultralight world. And so we have a really cool shelter system that like idea and everything's kind of mapped out. Now we're waiting for like the first run to see where we're at with it before we would go into production. And then we've got a backpack that we were testing on this trip that I'm stoked for. Like the fabrics in it are just really, really cool. The pocketing in it. Basically, we just said like, okay, let's take 2 pounds as like the threshold. We've got to make the pound 2 pounds or less. But like instead of going like, how could we cut it down to 1 pound? It was, how can we give a backpack or a 2 pound or less backpack with the most function and comfort and features possible? So I feel like that was kind of a different way of going at it than a lot of people do. And I'm stoked, like as far as like conveniences of the backpack and the way that it's working right now.
Is it framed or frameless?
Mm-hmm. It's not just framed. It's like a tall frame, and it's a comfortable frame for sure. And so you actually get load lift. Like I was just like literally when I got back off the trip, I grabbed, where is it? Like this backpacker magazine had showed up in the mail, and I was looking through it, and they had a section on like packs, and I opened it up, and like it was like 20 pound max load, 20 pound max load, 20 pound. And I'm like, in Utah, if I have a 10 pound base weight, I'm easily carrying over 10 pounds of water in certain scenarios. Like I already maxed out like that's ludicrous, right? And so those just don't work apparently in southern Utah. So it's got like a really good frame and support structure on it, but then just some of the conveniences, just little things that like it's not a duffel bag on your backpack on your back, you know what I mean? Like, which is what some of these 1 pound backpack makers are doing. And like there's pros with Dyneema, like Dyneema has a really cool place in the world, but you bring it out here to the sandstone and it just rips them apart, or there's just different things. And so I'm definitely stoked about some of the stuff we have in the works there. And then there's definitely a lot on the design board that we're working through with pads. We're not far enough along, I feel like, to share anything yet, but we've got some really cool ideas that are I would be very surprised. I'd lose money on a bet saying that we're not the only people actively looking into a specific type of installation in a pad that could hopefully really kind of lighten things up and do some things there. But there's some good pads out there for sure that we're kind of, that we've got to go and go to bat with. but yeah, we're kind of going actively backwards into our core offerings and improving things as much as we can. But then we're also trying to go forward with apparel. We've got both with New Yarn and Torio, we've got some really good opportunities for other really innovative apparel items to bring forward. And so we're all over. We're as busy as we can be for sure. And I'm stoked because it's just all stuff I'm going to use day in and day out. But
well, I know you're a busy man, so I got just one or two more little things before you got to run out of here. So one thing I always like to ask anybody who comes on the podcast is like, say, unlimited time, you didn't have to take any business phone calls. You obviously you already have unlimited gear because you make it. Where would you go and spend like a month backpacking or mountain biking or whatever you want to do?
Alaska. Like, no hesitation. Yeah.
Alaska.
I kind of got to dip my toes into Alaska, like commercial Alaska. And we took a little airplane ride up and across some stuff. And it just never left my mind. It's like, this is, I used to grow up like reading Western books, and be like, dude, these guys are out there in the Wild West and it's like crazy. And they're having to find their own food and do this and do that. And it was just like the last, that frontier, and so, yeah, Alaska, just the vastness, the undisturbed, like I said, like in the very beginning, just something calls me to see stuff that like other people don't get to see very often. And so, yeah, I would, if I had like a month and I could, swing that with wife and kids, it would be to just go and like maybe pull a trailer or something through Alaska and then day, not day hike, but like do little trips from there into different areas or yeah. But I'm super attracted to that type of stuff.
Everybody usually says Alaska or Australia or like New Zealand or something. Those are like the top highlights that everybody likes. So I personally would like to go to any of them,
For sure.
And kind of the last thing before we go, I know you have a podcast. I just listen to them all, and you guys have like, it's great because you get to learn about the company, but you also get to learn about, other people's trips and a lot of cool stuff that you guys are working on. But you're not just promoting like, and, again, not to sound bad, but like sometimes you listen to podcasts that a business put out and they just talk about, like the internal workings of their business, but you guys have guests. It's really awesome. And I really like it. You're promoting like a lifestyle though. So you want to kind of close on that? Like, what's this lifestyle that's more than just Outdoor Vitals brand? What's your guys' thought with that?
Yeah. So we kind of hashtag everything, or like our motto is live ultralight. And basically what we found is like, as we started to focus, like maybe the initial focus was on just backpacking, like how can we lighten our packs and simplify things? But we found that mindset soon started to carry into just everything. Like, instead of me like ever wanting to check a bag on an airline, I was like, no, like if I can't fit it in my carry-on, it's not coming with me. It's not that important. I don't have, like I need to like, so I was just taking that ultralight backpacking mindset and just started applying it to all these other areas of my life. And I realized that like a lot of people are the same. There's a lot of people out there that once they start to get on this like thought process, that it just really connects with them as well. And so, yeah, live ultralight to us is just it's a more minimalist and freeing lifestyle. It's, instead of having, like I say, like with going to the pair of pants, like instead of having a pair of jeans and then your outdoor pants, it's like combine them, have one pair of pants. And when you go to go on a trip, you only have to pack one pair of pants, and you can wash them in a sink, and so like going to those levels of trying to simplify, improve, and just living it like every day. Like the last thing I want to do is be like, hey, I'm a weekend backpacker and that's the end of the road, It's like, no, like I would love to be able to go hit a trail after work sometimes. I'd love to, like that's like in my DNA. That's like at the core of just what I love to do is that. I don't want to do that just on like this day of the month and this day of the month. And so it's really kind of taking like, hey, if you're an ultralight backpacker, like realize, or just a backpacker, realize that there's overlap, realize that it's a lifestyle, it's a mindset, and take that mindset and apply it to just everything. And I going back to just other things, like I could geek out about this a lot because it means a lot to me, probably more than I'm able to share with customers sometimes. But I think like the best way to help the world is to get people to go and travel the world. It's hard to care about someone when you've never seen face to face, and so people definitely like start to be like, oh, it's us versus them, and if like we come first, and that type of mentality. It's like, dude, this planet is just getting smaller, and so like the more I can encourage people to travel and to see the world and stuff, the more it seems like kindness and love and like just like collaborative work, I feel like, comes forward. And so that's also a part of it. Is the Live Ultralight stuff, you'll see us continue to release stuff that can just be used on a daily basis. And a lot of that stuff is also like stuff that's really focused on maybe being able to use when you're traveling, like internationally traveling. So,
well, I really appreciate your time. If you want to kind of give everybody your socials and your website and stuff so they can find you, not that you need my help to find your website, but just so people listening that may not know about how awesome your gear is.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you can go to outdoorvitals.com and check us out there and find our podcast. It's liveultralight.com is our podcast. And just to say this too, I have this like big desire to help people just get outdoors. Like that's a huge driving force for us. Before we started talking a lot about Live Ultralight, it was just opening the outdoors, just helping people get outdoors. And I believe that there's two big factors that will keep someone from going outdoors. Number one is just poor gear, right? Like they've got a 50-degree Walmart sleeping bag. They go into like a 20-degree setting on an air mattress, and their tent leaks, and they're like, "This is the worst. I'll never do it again." And it ruins them for life. Those people, like a lot of those people will never try it again, and that kills me because I'm just like it's for how digital the world is and how much we get sucked into that. Like the antithesis of that is like being present and getting outdoors and disconnecting and some of those things. And so it really bums me out when I hear that. But the other thing that will keep people from going is knowledge. They have fear because they have the lack of knowledge. I've never done it, so I can't do it. I don't know what that's like, so I'm not going to do it. And so I love coming on podcasts like this, guys that are talking about that, teaching that. And that's basically all we do, like on our YouTube channel. And what we try to do as much of as we can on our podcast and stuff is we try to really balance it out and say, hey, we're doing our best to provide gear. That's what turns the lights on. That does all this stuff. But at the same time, like if you could have all of our gear and still never use it if you don't have the knowledge to go with it. So yeah, come check us out. Check out our podcast. Check out our YouTube channel. We do a lot there. That's just Outdoor Vitals. If you search Outdoor Vitals on YouTube, you'll find us there. Or if this is going out pretty soon, you can still get a really good deal on the wool and the pants that we talked about on Kickstarter.
All right. Thank you, Tayson, very much. And we'll see you guys all again soon.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime, man. Hey, everybody.
Thank you for watching the Aptitude Outdoors podcast here on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to thank Tayson from Outdoor Vitals for coming on this week. Make sure you check out his website and all of his social medias and buy all their awesome gear. See you next time.